Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Split Screen Screenplays video game podcast. Working on the intro. This is only our second episode. Cut me some goddamn slack. Uh, joining me, as always, is my lovely co host, Shanoon O'Connessy.
Yes, that's what I'm going by now.
Okay, cool.
No, hi, it's Shannon. Welcome everybody for episode 2. Welcome to this amazing thing we're doing.
This amazing, well planned,
Yes,
intricately
extremely.
thought out, uh, down to the most minute of details podcast.
Like research to the T, just very much.
Every
Yeah.
episode is the culmination of days, and I mean days, of just kind of sitting around and waiting until we recorded the next one. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, what are we talking about today, Shannon?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
We are eventually, but
Eventually.
before we get there, there's some video game news that we should cover.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Um,
have a few things that happened in the past few days. Uh,
yes,
Yesterday was the BAFTA Game Awards.
that it was
That it was. Hades went home, I think, with the most and with Game of the
probably.
Year,
Yes, it did.
which I haven't played yet, but it is on
Me
Switch,
neither.
so I'm going to play that soon.
It's on my list. This bet I have going on with Brian right now means that I haven't played my Switch in
Mm.
probably about a year.
Oh man, yeah,
Kit has it most of the time anyway, so
yeah. I think I like Animal Crossings a lot, but I feel like my obsession with it has kind of dwindled in terms of like,
mhm.
okay, I want to do other things
Honeymoon
and play other
period's
things.
over.
Yeah, yeah. Honeymoon period is over. Not that I'm like mad at it or anything. I was
No,
like,
for sure.
there's only so many hours I can spend fishing on that game. Um, it's fun. It is a lot of fun, but it's kind of like how I feel with like Sims sometimes, where it's like really fun
Yeah.
when you start off, and then like you keep going, and it's just like okay, like this is getting
What am I getting out of this?
yeah. There's not like a lot of story left
Hmm.
once you kind of get to the end and everything, which is fine. But Animal Crossing's also won like family game, which is very true. It's a great family
Yeah,
game.
I mean it deserved it. It definitely
Yes.
deserved it. I think I saw Ghost of Tsushima won for
Audio.
animation.
It said
Oh,
audio.
audio.
Animation was Last of Us too.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Maybe it was
I didn't catch
environment.
all of the categories. I tried to watch as much
Yeah.
as I could on the live stream.
I read up on the highlights because I was unable
Yeah.
to tune in live.
What I liked about it was that there was a lot of it wasn't like a sweep. Like it wasn't just all
Hmm.
won by the same game. It was like there was a good mixture of each game kind of getting its accolades, which I think was
Sure.
really great.
Yeah. Oh,
I
for
think that
sure.
that was nice and just kind of noticed a lot of the games this year, which a lot of people were playing because all we could do was sit inside. Um, but yeah, no, I think that
That is correct.
it was one of the. I think I didn't see as much like blowback in
Hmm.
terms of like all award shows have their certain like oh this should have won that type of
Yeah.
blowback and or like getting annoyed at one game or one TV show or one movie like winning everything. I
Hmm.
didn't really see that with this as much.
No,
So like
yeah, and I
Miles
think it.
Morales got for like music,
Yes,
which was great because it has great music.
I think a lot of that comes from it. Just kind of happened. Like there was
Yeah,
no like fanfare at all. It just kind of
yeah,
poof, and now the BAFTAs are done.
yep,
I'm like, okay, well, I mean, like you said, we should talk about it on this episode, and you said that yesterday. So
I know.
that's goes to show how much I had been paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of saw it because it came up in my feed, and I forgot it. I didn't even realize it was gonna be yesterday until I saw it. Like it's
Hmm.
happening in 10 minutes. It was like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, in terms of like virtual award shows, I feel like the gaming community has done it better than a lot of the like other communities. Like
Yeah.
they're because they run all their shows, like the Game Awards on Twitch were great.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
it's yeah, for as much troubles and problems as the gaming community has had over the years, some of which have actual names and will be covered on a certain screenplay based video game podcast.
I don't know
Uh,
what that one is.
it's a Gamergate, but it's a great. It can be a pretty great community. It's
Mm-hmm.
like for the most. I mean, it's kind of the way with anything is, but I
Anything
just
is, yeah, yeah.
one of the things that I like so much about the gaming community is there's always grossness in every like fandom, but the good in gaming tends to be really really good.
Yeah. It's a very like personal experience too. I feel like gaming and how you go through a game and how you experience that and sharing it with other people is great. And if they don't share your same opinions, then it's, it's
Hmm.
fine. You don't all have to agree on the same thing. It's okay. Just like with same with like movies or TV shows, you might not get the same emotional experience out of a TV show that someone else does, and that is okay. That is why there are so many different genres and so many different shows, because that way everybody has their thing. And I do think in some ways that I think awards are really great because they really do like shine a light on things, but then it's sometimes hard when there's not enough categories to really
Hmm.
include everything that should be. And I do find with gaming awards is that they do have a lot of categories that really include a lot of things, and they don't just have like best game, and they have like best game in certain categories, like because having a horror game go up against like Fall Guys doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, or
So
like just
like,
even like The Last of Us competing with games like Warzone. It's like
yeah, it's
you
hard.
play
Like you
like
can't. Like it's totally different experiences, and it's a
yeah.
totally different, group of people that play each game. Like I play both, but not everybody does. Like it's some people don't do the, giant, you know, games with a lot of online players, and
Hmm.
that's fine if you want to just do
Speaking
like a
of,
story.
speaking of,
True. Speaking
uh,
of Warzone and Call of Duty.
we this story is kind of twofold. First off, it has been all but confirmed by by an official Call of Duty source that the next Call of Duty coming out this year is going to be called Call of Duty World War II Vanguard. To which the entire internet said, "Okay, guess I'm playing Battlefield 6." It, I understand that they've been working on this game for a while, so it's kind of too late to like pull the plug. You sunk you sunk enough money into it at this point that releasing it, even if it doesn't do well, kind of needs to happen and will make your money back. But it's fascinating to me that after Modern Warfare did as well as it did, and World War II kind of, I mean, it did well, but it died so quickly. The thing that I keep coming back to with the way Call of Duty's been going in the last like 6 years is that they always sell well because it's Call of Duty. It's never not going to sell well. Call of Duty is the only game that does what Call of Duty does the way Call of Duty does it. So you're not really going to get that itch scratched in any other way. So it makes sense that whenever they come out, they do numbers. But the reason Modern Warfare was so special was because it came out and then it had staying power.
Hmm.
Even before Warzone started, Modern Warfare was like the highest played uh, online like multiplayer game for like 6 months straight. And this is in comparison to games like Valorant and Fortnite and PUBG and
Yeah.
Apex and Battlefield 5 and all that junk. And if you read the market, people are kind of tired of the old timey shooters because like we were spoiled for choice with modern shooters for a little while there because when the first Modern Warfare came out, Battlefield Bad Company was out and Battlefield 3 was about to come out. Both of those were modern shooters. So that's what really started the Battlefield v Call of Duty war was Modern Warfare versus Battlefield because both were doing modern combat at the time. And then funnily enough, it was Battlefield that kind of broke that trend, because as Call of Duty went further and further into the future, Battlefield went back to World War One with, I think, was an unappreciated Battlefield title, Battlefield One. It had its problems for sure, but it was a ton of fun, and it looked beautiful, and very early on, it actually ran really well, which is not normal for most Battlefield titles. Is that most of them launch and are pretty rough to play for the first couple months. But Battlefield 1 was only rough for like a couple weeks, which is a good thing for that series.
It's very
Um,
good.
but immediately after that, COD World War II came out, and it sold well because it was sort of a step in the right direction. They tried to put at least a little emphasis on a story mode,
Hmm.
and tried to work on kind of reining in the multiplayer a little bit, and people responded well. But it didn't really bring in any new players or players that had left the Call of Duty franchise, like people like me and Brian, and I think Freddie too. Like Freddie played World War II online, but not like it was his game. Not like it was a game that he liked to play. He played it because it was out.
Yeah, I actually have that
um,
one. I got it from like GameStop, like a
hmm
used. Because I
Yeah, I have it
remember
too.
playing it like on somebody's PlayStation at some point in my life.
I think it was Brian's. We
I think
got
it was
well, we all
Brian's
got it
actually.
only to play zombies. That's the thing
Oh,
that
really?
kept.
I played the
Yeah,
regular like story mode. I like the story mode of World War II.
we
I
played
think,
that too.
but yeah, like Modern Warfare obviously was like my first real like
Yeah.
venture into the multiplayer verse.
So like, yeah, and there wasn't anything new to bring back people who had left and were kind of looking for a change, like a solid modern shooter in an arcadey setting with big maps and large player bases, like Battlefield 3 and 4 used to do. And then the next Battlefield after that was Battlefield 5, which had a billion problems we don't have time to get into, and was genuinely a bad game when it launched. So there was a void in the market that was filled by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, which
Wow,
was the
this is
highest.
2019.
Yeah,
Gosh,
or was it 18?
I don't know. It just seems so long ago,
It
yet
was,
not. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think it was 19. Can
I
you
think
look
so.
it
It
up?
was new when I like I remember getting it last birthday. It's almost a year now since I've started playing Call of
Hmm.
Duty, so a little under a
Yeah,
year
it was
now.
20. It was 2019.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that came out, and it was the like best selling Call of Duty, best performing Call of Duty since like I think Black Ops 3
Maybe.
or
I
maybe
have no
Black Ops
idea.
2. It was wild, right? It did well for the
It
first
did
time in like a
extremely
long
well.
time.
And I think part of it was also because of Warzone. I think part of it was pandemic, but I think part of it was also, I mean,
Well, Modern
it looks
Warfare
nice
itself, Modern Warfare itself came out like I want to
before the
say
pandemic. Yeah.
8 or so months before the pandemic actually started.
Yeah.
It
Warzone
it did.
started right when the pandemic started.
Yeah, Warzone started in March,
Yeah.
right around when the pandemic. So that's part of why Warzone did so well.
Yeah.
But the thing that brought people back was that they made a game that was sort of more grounded.
Hmm.
They made a new engine for the first time in like 8 years and marketed towards players who kind of felt tired of the same old Call of Duty and who might have been looking for that larger scale combat. Battlefield players, pretty much, like myself. Um, and that's why it did well, because then Warzone came out and you had those sandbox moments that you could only really get in Battlefield, which is why Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, just being a slightly updated version of the same piece of shit Call of Duty game, was such a disappointment to so many people, and why the way they treated Modern Warfare sat so gross. It's like you did all this work, and Infinity Ward brought back all these players, and then they completely were just like, fuck all you guys. We don't care about you. We care about the audience that was only barely hanging on in the first place. We're going to make a game for them. And now the news for 2021 in the same year that the one of the most hotly anticipated modern shooter games in the last like decade is coming out, Battlefield 6, Call of Duty announces a World War II title
Yeah.
after a very lackluster uh not great performance by Cold War. They're doing a World War II game.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't play the campaign of Cold War, but granted I also didn't play the campaign of Modern Warfare. So I can't really speak on those accounts. But in terms of multiplayer, and just overall feel, I definitely like the Modern Warfare better. And I'm not sure if it's I used to think for a while I thought I was like, I'm just used to Modern Warfare. It was like my first, time playing, but I don't know. There's just something like it's like down to like the detail of just like the home page and the main screen is just easier to navigate and
Well, it's a newer
figure
engine.
out.
That's the thing. It's a newer engine.
Yeah, it's
Like
just nicer.
Cold War is running on the on the same engine that Black Ops 4 and COD World War II were running on.
Yeah,
And that's not okay. Like that's
that makes
lazy.
sense.
You don't
Yeah,
have
that
to
makes
make a
sense now.
brand new one every single time, but it's been a long time since Treyarch used an updated engine. And that's why
Hmm.
in Warzone, the guns and equipment and animations for the Cold War stuff, it just looks weird because it's in a different game.
Oh
Like
yeah.
straight up. Like so it's just weird. And then like so but the thing that I'm excited about though is that now the same situation that allowed Modern Warfare 2019 to kick ass like it did is back again. But the shoes are on Battlefield 6's feet.
Yeah.
Battlefield 6 has the opportunity to be a explosion of a success because there has been a lot of want for a good Battlefield game since Battlefield 1 really and in modern combat, and it's going to come out on the newest generation. uh, the shit that the newest consoles and new PCs are capable of doing
I know. Can't wait to
is
find out what that is.
I know, right? Same. It's incredible. So I can't wait to see what a modern combat 2021 Battlefield game is like,
Mm,
especially since it will have been 2 years since Modern Warfare came out. That's
yeah.
exciting.
And all of
I
you guys
can't
get
wait.
to hear about his veteran experience with this new game, and then my brand new newbie eyes looking at this new game.
Yeah, I've been a Battlefield player. Battlefield 3 or Bad Company 2 rather. No, sorry. Battlefield some Battlefield Modern Combat or something like that. It was a like spin-off title on the PS2 was
Oh
my
wow.
first experience with online gaming.
Oh wow.
Then I played Battlefield Bad Company 2 on my PS3 when I finally got it. And Battlefield 3 came out, I played the hell out of that. Battlefield 4 came out, I played the hell out of that. Battlefield Hardline came out, and then Battlefield 1 came out and I played the hell out of that. Battlefield 5 came out and I bought it right away. I was excited for it and then it sucked and then I didn't really play it, but I've recently gone back since it's been fixed. Ironically, after they announced that they were no longer supporting it, so
Oh gosh.
no new
What a
updates,
shame.
no nothing. But it's fine. It's good. It's a good placeholder while I don't play Warzone anymore because it's not fun, and wait for
No, don't
Battlefield 6.
quit.
It's just
Yeah.
not fun. I literally only play with you guys anymore. I used to like in my free time jump in and like rank up my guns, but then like the meta got so fucked and now to compete you have to use Cold War guns and I hate playing that
Oh
game.
yeah, that's true.
So I have my Fafar in a place where it's good enough and I'll just hop in and play with you guys whenever y'all feel like it. It's just
Yeah,
not
it
fun to
has.
me anymore. Even when we do well, it's just not fun.
Yeah, it gets a little annoying with the newer guns, especially because I like don't really like Cold War, so I don't really want to go and play their multiplayer to,
That's the thing,
rank
it
up those
sucks.
guns. So
It's like I
I feel like they
understand
should have kept it separate, maybe, or like just I don't know. I don't know what, but yeah, the
they should have planned at all for
hmm
implementing Cold War into the fold. because
Yeah.
the integration aspect of things is a great idea because it's an awesome way through a game that was always going to make them more money than the other ones, Warzone. uh, it's a great way to get people to want to buy your main series titles because they play Warzone, they jump into the event, like Resurgence Island, and you see all these cool
Mm.
guns, and you're like, "Ooh, it's fun to play with these. I wonder what it's like in multiplayer." And then that little seed gets planted in the back of your head, and then they add zombies to Warzone, and you're like, "Oh, this is so cool! I wish I could do this all the time." And then that seed grows a little bit bigger, right? It's a good marketing tactic. They
Yeah,
just
for
didn't
sure.
think about it at all, really. They were just like, yeah, it'll be fine. Let's add 38 new guns
Oh,
or
God.
whatever the fuck it was and not do any work to make sure the balance is okay. Also,
Yeah, it's hard to compete with. Yeah.
all the attachments are going to be broken and not do what they're supposed to do or really anything near what they're supposed to do at all. We're going to change it so like instead of like maybe 6 7 primary weapons that are viable as your main, there's only two that you should ever use ever, otherwise you're literally just asking to lose unless you're like the best player in the world. It's just stupid.
Yeah. It's
It's
hard to
like it's
compete with my little
and
guns versus like the
yeah,
Cold War guns.
and the thing that sucks is it's like when you add new guns to a uh, battle royale game like Apex, where you don't have loadouts. Like so in Apex, you drop, you land, and you have to scavenge for weapons. So you don't have the same weapons every single game of
Maybe that's what they
of
should get rid
Apex.
like lose just get rid of the loadouts
Yeah,
because then
a
it
lot
takes
of
away the
people think
possibility.
a lot of people think that would be a great idea in the like higher tier play community, like your Jack Frags and your in that like crew of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about whether or not they should do away with the loadouts because every time the people who are good are gonna get their best guns, and then that just kind of guarantees that the people who maybe aren't quite as good. I
The
mean,
Mies.
well, see, I'm also of the mind it's part of why I like Battlefield because it's like, yeah, the people who are the best at the game, put the time in and get good, are gonna do the best. They're gonna have the most success. That's the way it needs to be. You should reward people who play your game. But there's nothing for people like in Battlefield, if you're not the best at shooting, you can be a medic. You can earn points by like reviving your team
Right.
and throwing down health and making sure your teammates are healed up while they're doing the fighting. And that's what's cool. There's more to do. That's what we were talking about earlier when I said there's like a couple more steps in between spawning
Ah,
and dying. Like in Warzone, if your entire squad isn't good at shooting, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do about it.
that is very true.
And it's fine because you can have fun without winning, but it's just I don't know. It diminishes the returns on playing the game when you spawn in and get murked across the map by some douchebag who's put 7,000 hours into Warzone on the FFAR since Cold War dropped. But
Yeah.
anyway, the moral of that story is I think it was foolish for them to greenlight another World War II game before doing the next Modern Warfare. But Freddie brought up a good point, and that's the more time between. Hey, James. The more time between the last Modern Warfare and the next Modern Warfare, the longer they have to make sure it's good.
It's true.
So I'm okay with waiting as long as they may take advantage of the wait. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think it was foolish to do World War II. I don't know.
Yeah, it is an interesting choice for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know their mindset of why or if that's how long it's been in production because obviously these things take years and years and years to make.
No, that's not this. No, that
Not these ones. Those are different types of games.
no. They release a Call of Duty every single year. They only develop for like a year and a half. That's
That's
why.
true.
That's part of what makes it. That's like it's equally why Infinity Ward's doing a good job and a good thing right now, and the Treyarch teams aren't necessarily because the Infinity Ward team developed a new engine for the last Modern Warfare, and then the I'm going to start that over because James just left. So the Infinity Ward team developed a new engine for the last Modern Warfare. The Treyarch team did not. They just keep reusing the same old engine, which sucks because then that means that they just kind of copy paste games. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like we're actually getting a new game every time. It's just Cold War is just World War II with a Cold War skin on it.
Yeah, that makes
It's just
sense.
kind of
I
it's
mean,
just kind of
you don't have to
unfortunate.
reinvent. I definitely don't believe in that. You have to reinvent the wheel every single
No,
time,
no,
but you definitely
absolutely
got to
not.
make something worth coming new to play.
Yeah,
You know, it's definitely
either
got to be something.
stop charging $60 or
Mm,
what's gonna be $70 now on the new consoles for a
yeah, it's
new
gonna be
game,
crazy.
or make enough new shit that it's worth paying that full price. Because I don't really have a problem paying $60 for a game when I'm gonna get like 80 hours of enjoyment out of it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel weird about spending $60 for Spider-Man because I
Yeah,
played the
no.
hell out
Oh
of it. The
gosh, no. Yeah,
story was fantastic, and all that.
I didn't even mind paying 60 for Miles Morales. Like it was obviously a shorter story, but it was still excellent. You know,
I don't think it was 60, was it? I thought it was 40
50,
or
40. I
50.
don't know.
Whatever. But yeah,
It
no,
was a
it's like
little
the
bit lower. It was a little bit
yeah,
lower, but it
the
wasn't.
point.
I mean, it wasn't like $20. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you get hours out of it, then you get your money's worth.
And I think eventually with the live service model, that $60 purchase kind of makes a little bit more sense when you buy like a Cold War because you have zombies and they keep adding new maps and they're all free. And you have multiplayer and they keep adding new maps and they're free. You know what I mean? But it's just like I don't know. I'm gonna need to see a lot out of this World War II game to feel it'd be justified to buy it.
Yeah.
Especially considering I get zombies from Cold War. I'm also curious how they're going to implement the World War II stuff into Warzone, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But
Yeah,
anyway, we already
that'd be
spent way
interesting.
too long talking about fucking Call of Duty on our episode that's going to be called Horizon Zero Dawn. Uh, so I'm not entirely sure how we're going to go about as this podcast evolves talking about these old games, because I don't want to just go ahead and do reviews because a
No.
lot of the time we're playing games that came out years ago. I don't want to just do like a retrospective because I would want gameplay to go with that. I don't know. It's tough, but I will say Horizon was one of the first times I played a game uh and I was like taken aback by how beautiful it was.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's maybe one of the most beautiful games. I mean, other than Ghost of Tsushima that I've ever seen.
Oh man, fucking Ghost of Tsushima. We'll
I
get to
know.
that.
It's
We'll
so good.
get to
I
that
mean,
one of these days.
oh yeah, I have it and I'm through a little bit of it. I have to get back into it. I ended up I was like playing it a little bit during while I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I was like, I need to focus on one and not like I need to just pick one and focus on it. And it did take me like I feel like sometimes with like open world games, it can sometimes take me a minute to like get it under like my belt. I feel like to
Mhm,
understand what's going on, especially with something so involved as Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, I mean, with Spider-Man, it was a little bit easier just because I've been a fan of Spider-Man, the character, for a long time. So I kind of
mhm.
already knew the, lore, I would say, or like the backstory, or like just had
Yeah.
a connection with that character already. Whereas Horizon Zero Dawn, it was basically like a whole new world and story and learning
Mhm.
about that and becoming connected to a character, which can take a while. Usually, becoming connected to another person in the world can take a while.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was definitely something that I came across with Horizon Zero Dawn. I wasn't like immediately like I'm in because I think a lot of the mechanics also scared me, like
Yeah.
having to go to merchants and trade and having to, collect parts from the machine. I was like, what do I need this for? And like figuring
Mhm.
out what like every button did and like what like
Plus
is in my satchel, like how to follow the
yeah.
map and like how to, like but like literally I think maybe about it's like gonna sound like a lot of hours in, but maybe like 20 hours in, which is not actually that many hours into a
No,
game,
it's a game that
Horizon.
you can spend like 120 hours in. So like
Yes, it's so
for a
long.
game for a game like The Last of Us, that's the equivalent of like 4 hours in, which is about
Yes.
when the learning curve is over and you should know how to play the game comfortably.
Yeah. I feel like once I
Um,
got over the learning curve, it was like so much
yeah.
fun. I
Well, it's
just had a blast.
part of why I wanted you to play it. And the whole gang wanted you to play it is it represents a genre of game that we get a lot of, and some of my favorite games are that open world third person adventurer game where you're kind of going about saving a world.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Like, well, like there's outposts to raid. It's like it's a formula. It's absolutely a formula that gets used over and over again. Like Ghost of Tsushima is the
Yes,
same
same,
formula.
very similar.
Uh, Even Spider Man is a very similar formula. But
In a more modern world. I mean, not that, I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is also modern world, but I mean, actually, it's Horizon Zero Dawn is postmodern, actually, a bit.
yeah,
It's
Horizon is post apocalyptic actually.
yeah, it's very interesting because it also was like had a little bit of like Lord of the Rings
Hmm.
lore to it in terms of like tribes and different societies, but then like helping people along the way, which was really interesting and fun. And I
That's
got
right.
really caught up in like side missions and doing all of those first, and
Yep.
it was
I
like
always run into that with these games where there's side missions, and so I postpone completing the main story for like way too long. So a game that I do want to talk about on this show eventually, I'm not sure what topic will lead us to talking about it, but it's the Avengers game that just came out.
ah, I'll have to play
And
it.
yeah, well, part of why I want to talk about it is because it came out and it got obliterated, pretty
Mm,
much by everyone, which I both understand and feel sort of was misguided. It's not the best way to make a third person action game about those characters. It absolutely isn't, but it doesn't, I don't think, deserve all the hate that it got. But anyway, one of the things that I'm doing to myself in that one is I'm kind of just playing the non-story replayable like activity missions.
that's fun.
So like games like that and Mad Max have missions that don't really have a story. They're just go here and complete this task. Um and it's like so like the Mad Max game, which is fantastic, by the way. It's another good one. But should be very low on your list, I think. Um This you have so many other games that you should play
I
before that.
do. I
But
really
it
do.
has these outposts that you can go to that aren't necessarily like encampments. They're just little places that you can go explore and find
That's cool.
stuff. And yeah, it's cool. But the Avengers game has like aim facilities where you go and you fight bad guys to slowly chip away or whatever. But because it's a gear, like a looter action game, that Avengers game, the purpose is to level up your character and get more equipment. Blah 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 blah. But
Ah,
one thing that I didn't feel in Horizon was that like the side quests, it naturally kind of pushes you to do the side quests before you finish the story. Not
yeah,
a
it's actually a
ton of
trophy.
Yeah, not a ton of games like that with side missions will do that. They'll just kind of, and I'm not sure if that's points for or against, but it's just something that I liked about the game. Like it rewards you for completing everything before finishing the game. Because whenever I
Yeah,
like,
and some of those are hard. Some of them
mhm,
are hard, like the side missions. There's a few.
yeah.
Like
So
the
like
hunting
Brian and
lodge
I,
stuff was hard.
see, it's so funny. You and Freddie both talked about how hard those were for you guys, and I So I mentioned up top that I have a bet going on with Screenplay's own Brian Roth. I have to get to 30 platinum trophies before he gets to 40. And now that on paper doesn't sound fair, except for the fact that when we started, Brian was at 32 or 31. He was at 31 when we started, and I was at 11.
That is definitely not fair.
So yeah, it sounds unfair in favor of me until you hear the context of the situation, and then it sounds really unfair in favor of Brian.
Yeah, because I feel like you have a lot of games that you're very close to platinuming, and it took you like 10. I remember it did take you like about like an hour, I think, to like do the Horizon
Well, see, that's the
platinum.
thing, though. I jumped into Horizon not remembering whether I had gotten all these lodge trophies. I got
Did
them
you?
all without even, yeah, I got them all the first time I played each challenge without even really trying.
Oh, well, aren't you just amazing?
But I'm not trying to like. It was sucky because like Freddie talked about how that's the one thing that's holding him back from getting the platinum for Horizon is the suns, the blazing suns
Honestly,
on
they
every
weren't that
trial.
bad. Just one. There was just one. Only
Which
one for me that was tough. Out of 12, I don't think that that's bad. There
which
was only
one?
one that took like about
Which
maybe
one?
it was the stupid ones where you had to shoot the canisters off of these like
Oh,
it was like on underneath them, and you had to shoot them off, and then like under like a minute off of two of them. It
Tear
was
blast arrows, bro. Tear blast.
I did, oh, I did. Oh, I did. Oh, I did. It was just getting the right hit. I mean, once I did it, it was like I'm never doing this again. Like I finally got it. I was
Hmm.
close to giving up, but I was like, I can't. I'm so close to getting this platinum. And yeah, that was the only one I had difficulty with. There was everyone else, all the other ones, I basically got the golden sun or the blazing sun
Is the
first try.
blazing? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
blazing
it's
sun
like
first try.
yeah, and I think I like those because it kind of teaches you as I don't think so. Everything you do in a game should kind of teach you something about the game. So
Hmm.
it's like in Spider-Man, you have those like kingpin work sites.
Yeah.
So like those kind of help you slowly learn more about the kingpin's dealings, right? So it enriches the world. It's not just busy work, even though I mean, it is busy work, but it's not like you get something for it. In
Yes.
Horizon, the trials aren't just a thing, an excuse to play the game. It's teaches you about the weak points of certain types of machines, what what weapons do what, and different ways to fight machines and stuff like that. And that's one thing that I did really like about Horizon is it's sort of like so The Witcher 3 is a game where you hunt these big monsters, right? And the more you know about their weaknesses and strengths, the better prepared you can be for fighting them, which is really cool. It's a really fun way to role play in The Witcher 3. Horizon kind of does it in a way that's not like over the top and obnoxious, but still rewarding. So, like, if you know a lot about the different types of machines, you can prepare for them in a way that makes it so you can kind of take down anything with ease as long as you know how to do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think part of the problem, well, not part of the problem, it actually helped me get through them very quickly, was that I did them all at the end. When I figured out how to, when I figured all of that out um, on my own without going to them, which I was part of like, oh, these probably would have been helpful like 10 hours in where I should
Yeah.
have actually gone to them. But I mean, I did like them because I did learn new tricks, but I feel like at that point I was already at the end.
I
But it did help for when I went to and did Frozen Wilds.
was gonna
And Frozen
say,
Wilds
yeah,
is like leagues more difficult in some ways, in many
it
ways
is.
actually.
No, like I haven't beaten it Frozen Wilds yet, but I have
Ha! I
noticed
have
that.
that over you.
Well,
Mwahaha.
there's no platinum for Frozen Wilds, so
No, I almost have it all. I also I refuse to do because the trials in Frozen Wilds are actually really difficult. They're like really difficult, and I'm
mhm,
like I'm not doing them until I get
yeah.
a
We'll
blazing
get
sun in
we'll
this.
get into that concept more when we do the completionism episode with Brian and Freddie, and
Yeah.
they try to explain to me why they feel like they need to complete every single game So like
Well, now I
one of
just
the
feel like I need
things,
to compete with you all.
well, there's a little bit of that, and Brian has turned and Freddie to some extent, but it's mostly Brian because it started when he and I were in college together. Brian isn't a completionist, so he doesn't like completely go for the platinum in every single game he plays. But he's the most completionist out of all the people that I know.
Mm,
Um,
definitely, he tries. I mean, and he always is pushing for us to do the same. Because I do think in a lot of ways you do get the most for your money when you do that
yeah,
and you really
and
experience everything.
yeah, and I will say that too. It's like in the completionist episode, we'll get into it more, but it does feel like the definitive playthrough for a game. So it's like going through and doing it for The Last of Us 2. Even though the first
Mm.
time I played it, I felt like I took my time. I missed like
I did not take my
500.
time. I just like
I
ran
missed
through
like
it because I'm like, I
500
want this to
collect.
be over.
Yeah, I missed like 500 collectibles the first time I played
Oh yeah,
through.
you do.
So
You just do. And I'm just like, there's no way.
that's a
I'm
lot
not
of
ever gonna platinum that game. I feel like it's okay though.
that's like a lot of story and fluff though that I missed the first time.
Yeah, that is true. I
And
should
there's like a
probably,
couple
but
and there's like a bunch of collectibles that reference old Naughty Dog games, which I've been a Naughty Dog whore my entire life. There I don't think there's a single Naughty Dog game that I haven't played.
I
I
have
don't
a
think there's a
lot of
single
games yet to play.
I don't think there's a single Naughty Dog game that I haven't beaten, actually.
Wow,
No,
that's
there's not.
amazing.
Um and so yeah, it's like for them to reference like Jack and Daxter and
I did see that.
Uncharted. It's really cool and all that stuff I go nuts for. But anyway, with Horizon, um, some of the environments like I love a post-apocalyptic world, but one of the things that I think is the coolest about Horizon's world is that it is post-apocalyptic, but the apocalypse wasn't like a nuke that
No.
obliterated everything. It's part of what
Yeah,
makes The Last
or
of
a
Us.
zombie outbreak, or
Yeah,
whatever brings out your post-apocalyptic world in whatever video game you play.
yeah. And it's like part of what makes The Last of Us beautiful in a lot of a lot of ways is that it wasn't like a nuke that blew everything up. It was zombies that killed everybody. And
Yeah,
that's fucked up. But also it means that most of the infrastructure is still around and nature just slowly starts to take it back over again. But with something like Horizon, everything got leveled, but not
mm,
in a way that altered the atmosphere or something. So
yeah,
everything grew back up in very luscious and beautiful ways. And I think that
it's
that
gorgeous.
combined with like the animals' colors and the like outfits that everybody wears, it's a very beautiful world. It's one of the few like post-apocalyptic worlds that you could look at and be like, I might enjoy living in that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. It's again beyond beautiful. And I thought the machines concept is so interesting. Um, and just as you get deeper into that story, it's just quite beautiful. I love Aloy like so much. um,
She's such a
you
good
know,
character, yeah.
such a good character, and you really get into wanting like because she's just wants to help people, and
Yeah.
it's just so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I loved all of the different societies that there were. Um, I don't know. It was definitely like a very new experience to me because I feel like I play a lot of games that are grounded in some aspect of modern times.
Hmm.
Um, in just terms of modern society, whereas Horizon Zero Dawn is completely like living in a Lord of the Rings world. Um, and that it was very foreign to me in playing that and also in terms of just like what I said again, like before, like, going to merchants and all that kind of stuff and trading and doing all of that kind of thing and like not having like a gun, like just using arrows for everything. At first I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna suck at this because I'm like I can't like it's and then I was like so good. And like even another one of my friends who was telling me to play this was like had never platinumed it and was like, you did that? I was like, yeah. I was like, I got really into it. um it became very second nature, and I like really figured it out. But yeah, it definitely took a minute. Oh my gosh, Stripe, stop it.
Stripe be cameoing.
Stripe is cameoing in this episode. He wants me to throw his possum toy around for him. But yeah, I
Give it a
mean,
toss.
I will give it a toss. Well, first he wanted to go outside, and now he wants to play with his possum toy. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I don't have like a ton of games to pick from to say this right as of yet, but it's probably one of my favorite open world games.
Hmm. No,
Um,
it's up there for me too. Having played just about every like major one there is, it's
yeah,
up
I
there
mean,
for
it's
me.
beautiful and it's fun and it's has a great story that's very like heartwarming.
Hmm.
It has great action. It's
The
and it and
gr-
you definitely I feel like it's actually when I bought my PlayStation, it was one of the games that came with it, so I didn't really pay for it separately. But I mean, even if I did, I spent more than 70 hours on that thing.
no,
Worth
that's a
it.
single player only game that justifies its cost.
Oh,
Um,
100%. I played so much of that. Um, and I just like and just running around in that world. Like honestly, like I said before, like I sometimes open up Spider-Man just to swing through the city. Like
yeah,
it's like one of
yeah,
those things that's just kind of like comforting. Um, and I just really loved a lot of all the characters and everything. And
yeah.
it was a beautiful story and a beautiful game. And
So
I'm
yeah,
very glad that you were like, you need to play it because you were right.
well,
Um,
it's funny you brought that up. Is one of my favorite things to do as a comfort thing is play an open world game and do the side quests and side missions and collectathon shit,
oh
and
yeah,
just
it's fun.
explore while I'm listening to like a podcast that I really like or have
Oh,
a
that's
movie on
cool.
that I really like. And maybe that speaks to people today needing a billion times the stimulation that they did 10 years ago. But
I like about
mostly,
gaming the most is that you can just lose yourself in it.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Is Horizon is one of like three open world games that I've played where the world was enough, where I didn't ever like I
Oh,
didn't
that's
need
cool.
to add the podcast to get the comfort. Another one of those worlds is the world in Ghost of Tsushima. Um,
Yeah, that's a beautiful one
I
too.
never, I don't think I played through and 100% platinum that game, and I never once played it with anything else on in the background. I'd put my headphones on and just be in that world. Um,
That's amazing.
that
Well, I
one,
mean,
and
they've.
like
Go ahead.
we're
Sorry.
gonna do a dedicated episode once Brian and Freddie finish it,
And me. I
and you
haven't.
finish it,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but that one's like I know I'm right in the demographic for that because like I'm a big history nerd, and the history of feudal Japan is one of the places where I'm like exceptionally nerdy.
Oh, really? I didn't
And
know that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I and so that's part of why when that game came out and it was like a pretty gritty and grounded take on samurai, not in a way that's like because like you get samurai games, but they're like, you know, Ninja Gaiden or Nioh or Sekiro, and it's like not realistic really. You're just a dude with a katana, not necessarily a samurai. And
Hmm.
part of what I liked about Ghost of Tsushima was that you're like it controls it's like in a realistic world, and all
Oh
the
yeah.
animations and stuff are much more like grounded in reality. But
That
anyway,
opening scene is beautiful too.
we're not talking about Ghost of
We're
Tsushima.
not. We are not
uh,
talking about it, but we are talking about it, but we're not talking about
Not
it.
today.
But
But Horizon was another one of those worlds where I just kind of like the sounds and the music and the atmosphere is so good that I just never once really felt like I needed to add that extra layer of distraction. So yeah,
oh my god, I
um,
forgot
I
about the
think
music. It's so good.
I think I think one of the things that I want to do for this is we will create a ranking for every season of the show where we all pick a game that we talked about in this season that is, and we'll all argue for which game we think is the best of the bunch.
Hmm.
Uh, So I think as far as my ranking for this one, out of well, what do you want to do? 1 to 10? Do you want to do
Yeah, 1 to 10. Keep it,
keep it simple?
usual.
Yeah,
Yeah, simple.
I'd give Horizon a probably an 8.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe an
I
8.
tend to be so liberal with my rankings. Um, I would give it like a 9 for me,
Yeah.
which is close to yours. I mean, it took me a little bit longer than say like Last of Us to get into it. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no way to play Last of Us and not be immediately into that in the first
Hmm.
15 minutes.
Sure.
If that was the case for you, then I have a lot of questions for you. Not you, Tyler, but like in specific, and just people. Like if they're just like, yeah, I wasn't sold in those first 15 minutes. Like, okay, cool. I have questions. Um, uh, but I mean, I think that I was very much I got very into Horizon Zero Dawn,
Hmm.
very very into it, and it became a thing where like I was really excited every single night to jump back in and play. And the coolest thing about like playing a game like that, or like any game, is that I just kind of really immerse myself in that. Which is part
Hmm.
of a problem. Like I get on my phone like 3 hours later and I haven't responded to anybody. I'm like, oh, sorry, I was doing. But like it is nice to not have that tie to like having to respond to people, or like it's nice to just do something for yourself and have your full body and mind involved in one
Sure.
thing.
Sure.
It's done wonders for like my anxiety, I mean, in terms of just being able to focus on something
Hmm.
that's so engrossing.
Yeah.
um and I think that that's like one of the best parts of video games for me, is that it's very much a full body experience, that you really can't do. You know, I feel like sometimes for most games, I can't really do anything else or focus on anything else while I'm doing them.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
No, I
and
completely agree. Yeah. The only reason it doesn't get a higher score for me, and the more I thought about it since I gave it my rating, it's closer to an 8 than it is an 8.5.
oh,
Um,
what's the reason behind the change?
well, it's good. It's definitely really really good. I love the world. I love the characters, but there's a little bit of redundancy in the story, and like some of the voice acting's not awesome, and it is a little
Hmm.
buggy in some parts. And like the story, while it's great, it's a little long winded for what it is.
It is very long-winded. It is a
Um,
long story.
that all said, though, like the atmosphere is beautiful. The gameplay is great. It's a great implementation, because I'm not, like you said when we were talking about Call of Duty, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, especially not in the late 2010s. It's like at this
Yes,
point, there's
definitely
only
not.
so much you can do in movies and video games. And
Yeah,
originality is great, but a lot of the time, I think we need to reward it when people just do something that people like, do it really well. And
100%.
Horizon took a formula that is done to death, but did it in a way that was very, very well implemented.
And it felt
And
new. I mean, again, I haven't
yeah,
played like a ton of the ones that you have, but
well,
it felt new.
it does, and they found that nuance in the environments and the characters and the lore and the
Yeah.
enemies and all that stuff. So for all that, is those are all the points that get it up to 8, and it only loses points for all the
Yeah.
story stuff and some of the technical stuff. I'm really excited for the sequel.
Yes,
Um,
same. I was gonna say I really Ashley Birch is amazing as Aloy. Like
yes, she is.
hands down, amazing.
She, it's one of those games that makes you learn about a new voice actor or actress,
Mm.
because like
Eh.
once you hear her and hear them in something that you like them in, you notice them in everything. Like she's Mel in The Last of
Mhm.
Us 2.
I
She
know, I was like
plays
playing that at the same time, like, oh, this sucks. I don't
she's
want to do this.
she's Kate Bishop in that Avengers game I'm
I
playing.
did see that. I did see that she is in that. I
She's
feel
in a
like,
bunch of
gosh,
stuff, and you
it's great.
notice,
I
and
mean,
yeah. Well, it's
it's
like
awesome.
The Last of Us was that for me and Troy Baker, but he had been doing shit for years before he did The Last of Us. But
Yeah, he can
it's like,
change
yeah,
his voice so well.
he really kind of can, but he also kind of can't. Like it's weird how like when you know what he sounds like, you notice him right away, but
Oh
it
yeah,
does
Miles Morales.
sound
I was like, okay, so Troy's in this game.
yeah. And
It's like
like his
immediately.
his normal Troy Baker voice is very very jarring when it's on people that you don't know think look anything like him.
Oh
But the
yeah.
funny thing for me with Troy Baker is how much different from someone like Joel he looks.
Oh yeah. I was shocked.
But
I
he's
was
got
shocked.
such a sultry, beautiful, deep voice.
Yeah. He. Yeah. I mean, when I say I went into Last of Us blind, I went into Last of Us extremely blind. I had no idea anything. Nobody. Like my friend was like, "I love Ashley Johnson." I'm like, "Who?" Like I didn't know anything, and like now I'm a full like fan, obviously.
Yeah,
But
she's in the first Avengers movie. I forgot that
yeah, I haven't seen that movie in years. I
until
don't remember
recently.
that.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't know she was Gretchen in Recess. That was the biggest thing for me because I watched that kid as a kid so much. So, I mean,
well,
that was probably bigger for me.
all the
But
new
yes, I do remember her in Avengers.
all the new Marvel stuff coming out. I'm watching through the MCU in timeline order right now,
Oh, really?
just for context, because it feels like we're sort of relaunching the MCU again because we had so long since the last thing, and now these shows are coming, and it sort of feels like a loose relaunch. So I wanted to refresh on all the old stuff. Plus, I love
That's good.
watching them, and they bring me joy and comfort. But yeah, watching the first Avengers, I remember that she's in it, and I'm like, oh my god, forgot about that.
Isn't it like at
Um,
the end? Like
yeah,
at
so
the end? Yeah.
they had this whole plot point about Cap meeting this waitress, because there's like before or after we meet Cap in the beginning, but before he starts to go on missions again, he has a bunch of like fish out of water experiences in the world. There's like a lot of stuff for every character that they cut out because it's a movie that's already 2.5 hours long and features people who all are capable of carrying a solo film on their own, sharing the screen. And so there was like a bunch of stuff like Cap goes to the restaurant that Ashley Johnson's character works at and kind of flirts with her a little bit. Uh, and that was like a plot point, and that's why they hang up on her at the end too. It's like she had context in the beginning that we never got to see. But anyway,
I was gonna be like, did
um,
we see that? I don't remember that. I also have not seen that movie since 2012
yeah,
or whenever it came out. I think it was 2012.
2012, and I know this because I'm excited for when they put all the MCU movies in theaters again next year for the 10-year anniversary of the Avengers.
Oh
But
gosh, yeah.
regardless, yeah. So just to summarize, it's a good game. It gets an 8 from me and a 9 from Shanoon.
Yeah.
One episode I want to do one day is a versus episode where we talk about different video game characters and who would win in a fight.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
that I think will be fun, especially after you've got a few more games under your belt.
I know. Well, I have
But yeah,
Bioshock down as of last
I'm
night.
excited. Next episode, I think we're probably going to be talking about completionism in video games. It's either going to be that or uh, games we were hyped for that didn't live up to the hype, I think. And we'll get Brian on for that episode. Uh, but in the meantime, I think that wraps it up for this episode.
Yeah. Thanks all for joining,
Yeah,
and
thanks for
keep gaming.
listening. Yeah, game on, bros.
Game on, bros.
Oh my god, that is not going to be our sign out. I swear to God, that is
I'm
not going
going
to
to
be our
make
sign out.
it our sign out
Oh
because it's going to
boy.
be so fun.
I hope everyone's been enjoying the Podcast Network's relaunch. Uh,
Yes.
I'm really stoked that we're doing a lot of this stuff. The new studio is going to be finished hopefully by, well, when this comes out, this is going to come out like 2 weeks from when we recorded it. But regardless, I'm working on a podcast studio right now in my apartment. So when we're all vaccinated, we can record with crisp, clean condenser microphone audio. Uh, but
What a
in the mean,
luxury.
yeah, in the meantime, we're doing all these remotely. So I hope the audio hasn't been too jarring for people. But we've got a lot of good conversations to share that I think people are going to appreciate. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for
Yes.
for the way things are going and for what else we got in the pipeline. Uh, but anyway, thank you so much for listening. If you want to get more screenplay podcasts, well, head on over to our YouTube channel. That's where they all are right now. We're gonna get back up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts soon, I think. But for right now, I'm just focusing on making them. We'll get around to all the back end stuff when I feel like it. So anyway,
There you
thank
go.
you. My name is Tyler.
My name's
Shannon, go
Shannon.
ahead. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.